Hey guys, welcome back to Daisy Crochet, or welcome if you're new. My name is Shay and I own a small crochet business with my twin sister Fiona. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the essential products you need to start out as a crocheter. I'm going to be talking about a few products and why you need them, and I'll go into depth about like how to pick like certain yarns and hook sizes and stuff like that. This is going to be quite a beginner video, but I'm going to be doing a bit of a series on here, so I'm also going to be doing a video about fun crochet accessories and gadgets you can buy to take your crochet experience to the next level. I'm also going to be doing a small crochet business essentials video, and then also like a market essentials video, so stay tuned for all that, and let's just get right into it. So for your very first crochet project, you're not going to want to jump in with like a giant stuffed animal or like something really intricate or like a sweater or something like that. You're going to want to do something simple. I would recommend like a dishcloth, or we have a few beginner patterns on our channel that I know some people have used for their first project and it's worked well for them, so I will link all of those. And then we also have a how to crochet video, so after this one, once you have all your supplies, you can go watch that one and start making your first project. So with all that being said, the first product that you're going to need for every crochet project that you do is yarn. That might sound obvious, but you definitely need yarn. The question is, what type of yarn do you buy for your first project? Well, this one is a good example of a good beginner yarn. It's a medium-sized yarn. I think that's anywhere from like 4 to 5, which you can find on the back right there. That's not very important in my opinion, but that's just like a medium sized. Something that's like acrylic is ideal, and also like as smooth as possible. So like even this one has a little bit of like twists in it, which is usually fine. Sometimes it will maybe like separate a bit, which isn't ideal, but you definitely don't want something like this, which is on a project that I'm working on right now. You can see that it has a lot of like bumps in it, which does make it a lot harder to work with. And then there's also like faux fur or super chunky yarn. Wouldn't go for that because it's also a little bit more difficult to work with. And then also a super thin yarn is also not ideal for your first project. Even like a little cotton yarn, I think that's what I used and it was okay, but like very thin yarn, not ideal, because it's just a lot harder to get your stitches even and just work with it in general. So I would definitely suggest something like this. This one is 75% acrylic and 25% wool. Anything that's like this kind of look to it will probably work. And I've also seen some people will use like burnout blanket for the first project. Me personally, I didn't use burnout blanket until I had been crocheting for like 5 years. But that's just because I didn't start making stuffed animals until then. I don't really have any experience with starting out with it because I was already not a beginner by the time I used it, but you could definitely try that one out too. I've heard that it isn't bad for like a first project. After you have your yarn, then you're gonna want to get the appropriate hook size. There is like tons of different hook sizes out there, and you really can't use a wrong sized hook for your yarn or else it's just not gonna work. These are two examples of hooks that I have, and they're very different, as you can see. This is the biggest hook I have, I think. This is a 25mm hook. And then this hook right here is a 1.65mm. So clearly these will be used for very different purposes. Maybe this one for like socks and this one for like a chunky blanket. And neither would work for this yarn. Now, I guess there'd be very specific instances where you might want to use one of these for this yarn, but in general, it just won't really work. You may be thinking, well then how do I figure out what hook size I need? It actually says on the wrapper of your yarn. So for this yarn, it says right here that you need a 6mm hook. Don't look at the needles, that's for knitting. Look at this part with the hook on it, and that says 6mm. It might be backwards to you guys, but just look on your yarn. I don't want to confuse you guys, but there is some instances where using a different sized hook will work. Say you want your project to be slightly smaller, you could use one size smaller. Say you want it to be slightly bigger, you could use one size bigger. So that would be like going from a 5mm to a 6mm or a 6.5. but to begin, just use what it says on the package. So there are lots of different types of hooks you can buy in terms of what they're made out of. So I have lots of different ones here. My favorite are made out of metal. So like these two are both made out of metal. They just last forever. So like you don't have to worry about them breaking or anything. Plastic could break eventually. I've had things break that are plastic, so I prefer metal. Also, the way that you see what size it is just usually on the very middle. So this one says 5mm. Sorry if you can't see that very well, but that's usually where it will say. I know that a lot of people also really like things with a rubber handle like that, or silicone, I don't know what that is, but it's basically just a grip. And I do think that this is good, especially for beginners, because it is something to grip onto and it kind of will show your fingers where to sit a little bit. There's like a flat part there. I guess that depends on how you hold your hook, but either way, it's pretty comfortable to hold, and it does make it a little bit thicker too, because typically when you're starting, like a bigger hook size is kind of easier to hold, which is kind of funny because you're also not really supposed to start out with a super chunky project. So yeah, using these with like the little grips is a good idea in my opinion. And just so you guys know, I do have all of these products linked down below, or like similar ones to what I'm showing you. There is like hook kits that you can buy, or complete crochet kits in general. I have them all linked. And if you're really into crocheting and you really want to start out with that, I definitely recommend getting those, because you'll just have everything you need and you won't have to worry like, oh, I don't have that hook size or something. But if this is something you just want to try out, I'd recommend going to the store or shopping online and buying one kind of yarn and then the corresponding hook size, and then just going from there. But either way, I have all the products linked down below, and they are affiliate links, just so you know. So I do earn a small commission off of them, but it's at no extra cost to you or anything. And I actually do buy like these products and I love them. So they are linked in the description box if you want to check any of them out. So now that you have your yarn and your hook, you're going to need some things for while you're making your project. This might not make sense right now if you have never crocheted before, but there's a few things that you might need while you crochet. One thing that can be especially helpful if you're making something that's round rather than straight across is stitch markers. Now, I only have one of these with me right now because the rest are at my house in the city where I go to school. I'm currently home for reading week, and I didn't bring all my supplies home, but I have tons of these in different sizes. These are stitch markers. I have some linked on Amazon that I've bought, and you can get these for really cheap, a lot of them, and they are super helpful because you really can like keep track of like what you're doing all the time, especially if you're like watching TV or something while you're crocheting. So these are a lifesaver and definitely necessary, I would say, if you're doing a project working in the round like this. This is a bunny arm that I'm making. I do have a video coming out about this project as well, so stay tuned for that. If you don't have stitch markers or you don't really want to buy them yet, you can also use a different color of yarn and just pull it through the stitch to keep track, and that works just as well. I just cut off a little piece of yarn and weave it through. So definitely try that out if you don't have any stitch markers. And then next is a product that I'm gonna need to put on the screen for you guys because I did not bring them home again, but I do use them all the time when I'm crocheting. These are darning needles or just needles, I don't really know. I call them darning needles. They're used to sew projects together like stuffed animals, or to weave in the ends of things like dishcloths. These are not like essential, they are to me, but I know that my sister has never used a needle before and she just uses her hook to weave in the ends and things. But me personally, I definitely need a needle to sew things together and weave in the ends. I find it much easier. You can also get a bunch of these for pretty cheap on Amazon or any craft store. I will have those linked for you guys. There are also a bunch of different sizes of darning needles, and I would recommend getting kind of a variety pack if you're interested in getting them, because some are much easier to work with on small projects and then others big projects. And then another little obvious thing you might need, to cut your yarn, you will need scissors. So this is really basic. These are scissors I've had since I was in kindergarten, and they work for cutting yarn. I know that some people have special scissors for their crochet. I don't, but if you want to get those, go for it. And yeah, you just need these to snip the ends off your projects and stuff. Definitely an essential. And then next I'm just going to go over a couple of things that are not mandatory, but they can definitely help with certain projects or just your crochet experience in general. I would say once you've made a couple of projects and you're feeling more confident with stitches and stuff, if you want to try out making a stuffed animal or plushie, you will need stuffing. I use this stuffing right here. It's from Loops and Threads, and then I also use polyfill. I've seen lots of people use like pillows and stuff for their stuffing as well. I've also used yarn scraps, and then there's also beads you can buy. These are all just kind of extra things for once you've crocheted for a bit, but you obviously need something to stuff your project with if you're making a stuffed animal. So I do have some stuffing linked below if you need to get some. Also though, stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's typically have stuffing. Here in Canada, it's kind of pricey, but I just went to America this weekend and I got a bag of stuffing for $3. It's usually $30 in Canada, so definitely check out those stores if you want some affordable options. To go along with stuffed animal projects, you might need some eyes or accessories for them. You can use a different color of yarn to make like eyes and details if you want to, or you can use safety eyes. I'll put a picture on the screen because I did not bring mine home. I do have some in this project. I actually have nodes as well. They just clip in. You can also use hot glue to secure them in if you don't want to use the backs. My sister has used that and it works well, but either way they come with the backs, so you can just use those if you want to. And then you might also want to add buttons to your projects. I used to do this a lot when I made like scarves, hats, headbands, things like that. There's tons of different ones out there. These ones say handmade with love, so if you eventually want to have a business, these ones are a great option because they say handmade with love, which is really cute. But yeah, you can get buttons for really cheap, and I think that they are a great way to make your project look like it's really professional and cute. So yeah, I love buttons. And then the final two things I'm going to talk about is one for clothes and then one for storage. So if you want to make crocheted clothes, you might need a tape measure to measure for your project. So I would definitely recommend getting some. I have these ones and they work really well. Again, I know I'm kind of contradicting myself by saying don't start out with things like clothes and plushies and then telling you what you need for those projects, but I know that that's typically what a lot of people like to make, so I thought I would mention these things just in case for when you guys have got a little bit more experience. These might also be useful if you're measuring anything, like if you want to make my freezy holder pattern and you have a different kind of freezy than I do, you might just want to measure to see how big you need to make it. Or if you want to make a headband, measure your head. And then obviously clothes too for all of your measurements to make sure you're making the correct size. So yeah, those are definitely an essential in my kit. And then finally, once you start accumulating some yarn, I would recommend getting some storage. I'm gonna go more into storage in my next videos because I actually have like struggled with storage in the past because I find that I just have so much yarn and like tools and I just don't know what to do with them. So I have linked a lot of good storage options. My favorite is clear bins just because you can see everything. And then I also really like over the door hangers because they don't take up a lot of space and it's just a really great way to see everything and have it all in one space. That's just briefly about storage because I will go into it more in my other videos, but if you really need storage right now, I do have products linked that are really good. Okay, you guys, I really hope that you've learned something in this video about how to find the right yarn and hook and supplies for your first crochet project. If you have any specific questions, make sure to just comment them down below and I will reply to you as soon as I can. And if you're interested in buying any products to make your very first crochet project, I do have some linked below, and then you could also check out stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's, and also Walmart is kind of good for crochet stuff sometimes. I wish you the best of luck on making your first project, and I really hope that this video was helpful. If you want to actually learn the step-by-step on how to crochet, we do have a beginner's tutorial on things like chains, slip stitches, and single crochets. I will make sure to link that for you guys. So once you have all your supplies gathered, you can start making your first project. Once you've learned the basics, there are a ton of crochet tutorials here on YouTube that you can check out. We have a ton that are perfect for beginners, but then there's also so many amazing creators on here that will have some amazing tutorials for you guys. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like it if you liked it, and subscribe to see more videos like this one. I will see you guys very soon. Bye!